coming at you today with an exploration, a way to work with this initiation of rotation using a yaw, okay? And how we can counter rotate things on one another to help us feel really connected, stable, and steady in a single leg pose. So remember, yaw in terms of a direction is this action, right? It's this action. It's this action, okay? Because my feet are on the ground, if I'm yawing my toes out or yawing my toes in, you're not going to see a ton of movement. If I were, however, to stand with my feet in sand and initiate yaw and yaw, I would feel the amount of movement there actually is. To the naked eye, it's like millimeters, okay? But it sets in motion a rotation. It puts rotation into our system in a way that then we can use to kind of take out slack over our joints and feel very steady. So what I want us to play with is this notion of yaw. We've talked about like the pinky toe doing things, the second toe doing things. I'm going to reference just our 4 toes, so not our big toe, but pinky, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd toe. I realize this is my hand and these are fingers, not toes, but imagine for intents and purposes, I'm holding up and pointing to my toes. So we're going to think yawing our 4 toes out and then relaxing them. Yawing our 4 toes out and then relaxing them. That's not lifting and spreading the toes. It's just, we've got weight in that transverse arch, yawing the toes. Yawing the toes, yawing the toes. The toes aren't grabbing the ground, yawing the toes, yawing the toes. So just have a feel of that. It's going to be very different, again, if I'm not standing erect and pitching the bottom of my shins backward. That's going to be a very different feeling of a yaw versus finding my athletic stance and yawing the toes. So I want us to yaw the toes of both feet as we pick up one foot. Yaw, 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 which again is going to feel different than if I stand up and yaw, stand up and yaw. So try both. Find athletic stance. We've got pressure in the back of our MTP joints. Those MTP joints, especially this first one, is right here, okay? If I were to do a calf raise, that's going to put me at the front of that MTP joint. I want to be at the back of that MTP joint, okay? I feel the skin of my heels on the ground, but the bones of my heels are not pushed down or anchored down. And again, the top of my shin is not pitching back. The bottom of my thigh is not pitched back, okay? We want to find where the top of the thigh is pitched back slightly, okay? And the top of the shin is pitched forward slightly. We've got weight in the back of that MTP joint. Yaw the toes, yaw the toes, yaw the toes. Just get a feel for that. Okay, you can do it with your fingers. If you have trouble feeling the back of that MTP joint, don't be afraid to stand with your feet slightly turned out so that you can get a feel of getting weight into the back of that MTP joint. Yaw the toes, yaw the toes. Now we're going to add a piece. So we're going to yaw the toes, figure 4. Yaw the toes, figure 4. Okay, yaw the toes, figure 4. Next time you yaw the toes, figure 4, we're going to sit down, counter yaw the thigh. Keep yawing the toes out, counter yaw that thigh. Come on out. Yaw the toes, counter yaw that thigh. Yaw the toes. Try it without the counter yaw of the thigh. You'll notice you don't feel as secure in the pose. At least I definitely don't. Okay? Yaw the toes. Counter yaw that thigh. Yaw the toes. Counter yaw that thigh. We're getting some great work for our feet. Just balance-wise, some hip mobility. Yaw the toes, counter yaw that thigh. Yaw the toes, counter yaw that thigh. Again, just even if it feels like, oh, there's barely any movement, conceptualize if there's a seam down the front of your thigh, as you sit down into it, you just need to move that seam like a millimeter or two. We don't need a ton of movement, because remember, gravity is always acting on us and it accelerates any of our pitches, our yaws, or our rolls. That's the beauty of gravity. We can use it as an accelerator, okay, rather than be just subjected to it acting on us as a force. So we don't need to yaw a ton, okay? So try it 5-6 times each side. Yaw, counter rotate. Notice what each of your sides does. Don't try to make them do the exact same thing. You'll notice on your up leg that your torso pitches more forward, on your down leg that your torso stays more up. Also, don't be afraid to yaw the toes and the fingers. Counter rotate the thigh, counter rotate your humeruses, your upper arms. Okay? Yaw, counter rotate. Notice what that does for your sense of stability, connectedness, steadiness in that standing pose. Reach out with your questions, comments, curiosities, and what you notice. Bye for now.